Hi, I'm Jeremy Serrier. This is CRA Invested, and this is Module 5. In Module 5, we're going to talk about working with commercial real estate brokers. Now, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of investors make is they actually approach brokers like they provide a community service. And what that means is that you end up calling a broker and you say, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Why don't you come out, go ahead and get to work on my account, and I'm sure you'll get paid a commission by the other guy. Now, when you think about this, what you're really looking at is a situation where brokers are paid 100% on commission, and they're working for free. In fact, they're really the first investor in your relationship, and we're actually going to talk about that in a few minutes. But what I want you to think about is the last time you had an interaction with a commercial real estate broker that you just perhaps called on the phone and you asked for some help, what kind of response you got, or what kind of help you've had from brokers in the market that you're actually working in. So I'm going to tell you in this module how to sound like a pro when you call a commercial real estate broker. I'm going to also tell you what not to say. The biggest mistakes investors make when they're calling commercial real estate brokers, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what to look for in a broker. I want to make sure you can separate the good brokers from the bad brokers and find the ones that are doing deals and are going to help you get to the owners and the properties that you're really looking for in your target market. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about designations that brokers have, what they mean, who has them, and why. And then we're going to go through a sample representation form. Now, the very first thing that I want you to think about is that a broker is very similar to you. They are investors. And what that means is that commercial real estate brokers show up every day to work not knowing if they're going to get paid for the work they're going to do. Being an investor is similar to that. You're essentially working for free until you find a deal, you make it, and then make your money at the end when you sell the property or on your cash flows. Commercial real estate brokers work in a very similar way. The only difference is their scale is a little smaller. What this means is they show up, they work on a lot of leads, they bring in a lot of business, but they don't always know if those deals are going to close or not and if they're going to get paid. So you've got to keep this in mind when you talk to them, because they're not necessarily going to jump out of your chair to help you just because you tell them that you're an investor. So let's go through a typical conversation that a broker and an investor in a market would have on the phone. And this is a conversation that they would actually have before they've taken this course and experience what you're about to see. So the phone rings and the broker answers the phone. Hello, this is ABC Realty Investments. This is Bob. How can I help you? And the investor answers by saying, hi Bob, I was calling about a property that you have a sign on. The broker says, okay, well, Bob, what's the address? The investor answers, 123 Main Street, I think. It's the abandoned bank branch building at the corner of Main and Elm Streets. The broker says, okay, Bob, well, I know the property, I have the listing, how can I help you? The investor says, well, can you tell me the asking price? The broker says, sure, it's $1.245 million. The investor says, all right, well, that's higher than I thought it might be, so thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm looking for bank branches in the area, preferably ones that are off market that no one knows about. In fact, I'd like to be the first call on any opportunities you may come across. Here's my number. The broker answers, all right, well, when would you like to come by the office to talk more about what you're looking for, Bob? And Bob says, well, no, you don't understand. I'm not looking to meet just yet. You know, if you see a deal that makes sense, just give me a call. And while you're at it, can you send me a list of everything you have on the market and let me know if you see anything for me? The broker says, sure. What's your email address? So what happens next is Bob, the investor, calls some other brokers and he has a very similar conversation. Over the next 1 to 2 weeks, he's seen everything that there is on the market. He stops receiving calls and emails, and he starts to wonder, how come they're not calling me? Don't they want a commission? It just doesn't make sense. Here I am, I'm an investor. I want to spend money, and these brokers aren't leaping out of their seats to come help me to make commissions. What's wrong with these people? We see the problem Bob has is a problem that a lot of investors have. They think that because brokers are motivated by commission, that they're just going to jump up and help anyone. Well, that's not true. Brokers are motivated by working deals that will happen. They don't like to waste time because it's very expensive to do so. So let's talk about what motivates brokers. Brokers are a lot like you. They want to make real deals. They invest in your deals first. That means that all the service that they're providing you, the access they're giving you to the market, the information, the intelligence, they are spending time, money, and energy to collect that information. That information to you is an asset, and they own and control a lot of it. So you want to respect that, and you want to work with brokers in a way that leverages them. You want to be respectful of them and ask them to help you with what you're looking to do. Brokers also spend a lot of time and spend a lot of attention and care to provide the fiduciary services to their clients. So when Bob, the investor, calls up and says, hey, I want you to go ahead and give me off-market deals and that type of thing. Well, if that broker represents a lot of owners, he's not going to call Bob because he's not going to give Bob access to personal, financial, motivational information that his client might have. In fact, most of his clients are hiring him to sell their properties on the market for the highest possible price he can get. The other thing that motivates brokers is that they spend money on marketing and networking. Just like you're going to be doing with your investment plan, you're spending time and energy and money to reach out to owners to generate leads for yourself. Well, brokers are doing that on an everyday basis. The last thing they want to do is just give that away for free. And a lot of investors make that mistake. They think that just because they're asking for it, they should get it. Well, that's not always going to happen. You need to respect them. And if you do that, you can get access. And you also have to be remarkable, like the deal that you're looking for. So here are some things that you can avoid saying. You do not want to say these things to brokers when you call them. And the reason you don't want to say these things is because they hear them all the time. Here are some examples. I want you to find me some creative deals. Hi, this is Bob. I'm new to investing. I just left a boot camp and I'm looking for emerging markets. Do you have any such properties? I'm just looking for a good deal. I'm looking for a no money down deal. I just want a deal that makes sense. Can you send me a list? Boot camp. Don't use that word. You don't want to say, just call me if you see something. Or the word foreclosures. Can you go out and find me a foreclosure, please? Distressed assets. Well, who doesn't want to buy distressed assets? Do you know where I can find the down payment? That's a big turnoff. You have a broker on the other end of the phone who's going to say, this guy doesn't even have equity to buy a deal. Why am I going to invest in helping him find something? The deal's probably never going to happen. Add value. I'm just looking for a value add deal. I want to add value. So here's what the broker hears. Now, when you call up and say things like this, the broker's sitting on the other end of the phone, and this is what he's hearing you say. Hi, I don't know what I'm looking for, but want to make some money. But who doesn't, right? I know you probably represent a lot of owners, so if you could violate your fiduciary obligation to represent your client and tell me which one might be going through some personal and financial problems, I'd appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, I'm looking for something in an emerging market because I've heard that it's a good place to look. Who talks about my emerging market as local, as really a market anyway? So here's the thing. When you call up a broker, you have a conversation with a broker, you meet with a broker, you need to be deliberate. And this is how you sound like a pro. You want to say that you're in the market for another investment property. Not your first one. You want to talk about being in the market for another property. You want to specify the size and type of building you want. You want to tell the broker where and what conditions you're looking for. Spell it out. Perhaps the owner has problems with lease up, or maybe we can work together to find something. Tell him that you have a master buyer representation agreement to share. Tell your broker that you can describe your market. You know that you're looking for job growth. You're looking for new infrastructure coming into an area, new household formation. Tell him where you think the good markets are, and then ask for the meeting. When you ask the broker for a face-to-face meeting, you are separating yourself from a lot of other investors in the market. Those investors are not taking the time to sit down with brokers to introduce themselves and to talk about what their strategy, their why, and their financial target is. The reason they're doing that is because they think it's efficient. If they can just talk to as many people as possible, give them some information, give them some marching orders, tell them what to go do, and then move on to the next one and repeat, they think they're covering the most ground possible and that the phone's just going to start ringing with deals. Well, that's not necessarily going to happen. The best thing you can do is call up a couple brokers and take them out to lunch. Have a face-to-face meeting. Qualify yourself and the broker. You want to find out if this is someone you want to work with just as much as the broker wants to find out if you're someone he or she wants to work with. You need to describe your strategy and your financial target. So the thing is, when you're working with a broker and you're describing this information, they rarely hear this stuff. In fact, the people that they usually hear it from are institutional investors. Those are the guys with the smart money. They spend a lot of time thinking about what they want to do, why they want to do it, how much they want to make. And when they go out and they start talking to people in the marketplace, brokers, they say, this is exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what I want. And if you're doing that, you're going to stand a much better chance of getting help from these guys. They're going to understand what you're looking for, and when they see it, they'll know. They'll also know what not to send you. I can't tell you how many times you're going to call people, and if you don't do this, they're going to send you stuff you don't want to see. You're probably getting lists of property that are junk, they're overpriced, have limited information, they're just not helpful. Get rid of it, stop wasting your time, and get specific about what you're trying to do. When you go in and you're specific with the broker, you can really have a truly meaningful conversation with them. So here's another tip on working with brokers. How they get paid. Brokers are paid on commissions and fees. Now, I'm going to ask you the question, have you ever hired a broker? If you haven't, you might want to consider doing it. The reason is that a lot of the tactics that you're going to be learning in the next couple of modules, these brokers have already been doing for years. And actually they've been doing them with the specific owners that you're interested in doing business with. Brokers can be a shortcut to the people that you want to meet. So you might want to consider hiring one to help you get you there. So, brokers, like other service providers, do work with clients and they do take on investors. What you'll find is that a lot of investors are hesitant to hire a broker because they don't want to limit themselves. Again, this is that classic problem. If you want to get access to opportunities, you have to first limit yourself. When you limit yourself, you identify opportunities that really fit your plan. They fit your strategy, your why, and your financial target. Now, here's a question for you. If you were to go, say, let's talk to an attorney, and you approach the attorney and you said, I would like to have you defend me in this case, and I'm not going to pay you anything and I'm not going to sign any agreements, but I'd like you to just show up, start working on this, and if it works out in the end and I get off as innocent, then I'll pay you. What are the odds that that attorney is going to take that case? Pretty long. That's why a lot of these movies are made about people like that, because it's such a remarkable story. The real world doesn't work like that. People get paid for their time. Brokers expect to be paid for their time as well. So when you're talking to a broker, you have to think about them just like you would your attorney, your accountant, your CPA, any other consultant or service provider that you're hiring to perform a service for you. If you call up a broker and you start talking about an agreement of working together, retainers, fee protection, that broker is going to be very interested in having a conversation with you. So don't make the mistake of seeing your broker as an obstacle versus a resource. If the fee is in the way, then you're paying too much for the deal. It's very important to keep that in mind. Now, the way brokers are usually paid in deals is they're paid out of the seller's proceeds. Sometimes you're going to find that as the investor, you're going to have to pay the broker's fee. And when you do that, you're essentially making a net offer to the seller. So, Here's how this works. If you have a seller who refuses to pay your broker for representing you, you don't want to see your broker as an obstacle. Make your broker a resource instead. And what you want to do is make a net offer on a deal where you're offering the seller a fixed amount of money, and then you're saying, we're going to now increase the sales price by 3% because I'm going to be financing the fee that I'm paying my broker in the deal. Most sellers should agree with that because it's not costing them anything. It's not changing their bottom line or their net take home, that sales proceeds number. So they should agree to that. The other thing is, when you're hiring a broker and you're working with them, you want to make sure you're working with brokers who are committed to making you millions of dollars. If you get the right broker, that person can make you a lot of money. And the reason they can make you a lot of money is because they have a lot of information, and when you put that information to work and take action on it, you can have a significant competitive advantage in the market. Again, here you have someone who's spending all of their working hours collecting information, talking to tenants, talking to buyers, talking to sellers, meeting with lenders, other professionals, attorneys, accountants, CPAs. They're just collecting all of this information and establishing all these relationships. You get to walk in and leverage that immediately. Huge advantage for you. But you just have to make sure you're working with them right. Now, a couple of other notes on commissions and fees. They are negotiable. You can base fees on scope, price range, market area, asset type. You can also work with retainers. You can pay brokers in advance or pay them on a monthly draw, monthly fee, or you can just pay them a commission at the end of the deal. This is really something that can be negotiated between you and your broker. No two situations are the same, but it does behoove you to sit down and actually have the conversation. If with the broker, do you represent investors? And if you do, how can we establish a working relationship? I'm happy to pay you for your time, and I'm happy to protect your commissions. I want to make sure you're protected and you're making money, because if you're making money, then I'm making money. Now here's a note. Many listing brokers don't represent buyers as a standard practice, so consider asking one to recommend an aggressive sourcing broker for you to work with. The thing is that you're going to probably call a listing broker who has a lot of inventory first. And the reason is that they're marketing and advertising property that you're interested in. Chances are, however, that those guys or girls are not running around with a lot of buyers. And the reason is they don't have time. About 5 years ago, the National Association of Realtors did a study where they looked at the average time that a broker spends with a buyer versus a seller. And what they found was that brokers that work with buyers can spend as many as 4 times as many hours servicing the investor as the seller. So what this means is that for every 8 hours that you may spend selling a property as a broker, you're spending 32 helping a buyer or an investor find a property. So that kind of information, you need to take advantage of that, and remember that not every broker that is a listing broker is going to want to drop what they're doing and take you out and start sourcing property. So you want to ask them, if you're not going to do that for me, can you refer me to someone, or do you have someone on your team or in your office who can help me on the sourcing side? Because you're going to have a very specific process, a very specific strategy, a very specific financial target. And the closer you are to that broker who's helping you to execute on that plan, the faster it's going to happen. So you want to look for those people that are in the know. Those guys with lots of signs out there will know who's active in the market. Ask for the referral, and you might want to consider working with a designated broker. I would not recommend working with a residential agent. The only reason for that is that most of them are experts in exactly what they are, which is residential agents. They sell houses and condos. Sometimes you'll find some that sell 1 to 4 families, and occasionally you'll find some that are a mix of residential and commercial. That could depend on the market you're in. But what I would recommend is that if you go into a market, you want to find someone who is ideally designated as a CCIM or an SAOR, someone who is strictly a commercial real estate practitioner, someone who has experience in the market, who has a proven track record of deal-making activity. That person is going to be a very, very good resource for you. So what is a CCIM? Well, a CCIM it's an abbreviation really. So what exactly is a CCIM? Well, CCIM stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. And what this designation is it's an earned designation that commercial real estate practitioners take 4 courses, they pass a comprehensive exam, and have to submit a portfolio qualifying experience. It typically takes someone a couple years, about 2.5 years to earn the designation. So what it says is that this person they have established a proficiency in theory and practice in commercial real estate. CCIMs are typically made up of brokers, leasing investment counselors, asset managers, appraisers, corporate real estate executives, managers, developers, investors, lenders, attorneys, bankers, so on and so forth. They're part of a global network. They're in more than 30 countries. And annually, CCIMs do about $200 billion a year in commercial real estate deals. The classes that they take, they cover financial analysis, market analysis, user decision analysis, and investment analysis for commercial real estate. So these are people who can be highly valuable to you when you are looking at a deal and you have a lot of questions about what's going on. Moving into what else makes up a valuable professional is an SIOR. SIOR stands for Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. They're made up of about 3,000 members. They're in 28 countries. These are very sharp brokers. They're successful and they make a lot of money. They tend to focus on office and industrial deals, although occasionally you'll find some that do retail and multifamily as well. Many work with corporate and institutional clients, and from 2006 to 2009, the average SIOR sold or leased 1.1 million square feet of space, or did 33.4 million in 30 transactions. So the reason I'm telling you this is because these are 2 designations that will earmark a lot of brokers in the markets that you're looking at. And when you go into a market and you can find one of these people to help you out, you know that they've gone through an accreditation and some education and some professional qualifications in order to earn that designation. So you got a better idea of what you're going to get. So here's what I'd like you to do. Go do exercise 5.1, and this exercise is about finding your broker resource. So now that you've finished 5.1, let's go ahead and talk about the sample representation form. These are some of the things that you're going to find in it. You're going to find the parties that are named, the duration of the agreement, a fee schedule and payment terms, the broker's roles and responsibilities, description of how travel expenses are handled, state law references, employee versus contractor status definitions, confidentiality, signatures, and addenda and additional schedules. The reason why you want to have all this information in there and you want to review it closely, and you do have a sample, is that sitting down with the broker and presenting this agreement is going to separate you from 99% of the investors that you're competing with. And the reason for that is that they rarely ever have someone sit down with them and have such a deliberate and clear plan of what they're looking for. On top of that, they rarely ever have an investor approach them and say, we'd actually like to hire you to help us do this and find this property. You will surprise the broker, and when you do that, they're very likely to sit down and have a very serious conversation with you, because they're going to realize that you know what you're doing and you know what you're looking for. This is a tremendous asset, and it's an excellent way to differentiate yourself in the market and to take advantage of the broker resources that are out in front of you. So in our next session, we're going to move into tactics. We're going to talk about offline tactics. And what these tactics are actual tricks and tips that you can use to make owners of the properties that you're trying to acquire call you, reach out to you, ask you to come and talk to them about their properties. They're going to want to present you with their opportunities. We're going to talk about lead generation. We'll look at the art of the letter, the law of threes, calls to action, and I'm actually going to take you through some real examples of letters we use to send out. You'll be able to take the exact models that we provide you, send those letters, and it'll make your phone ring. You'll get calls from owners that will want to talk to you about their properties. So that's Module 6. Again, we just completed Module 5. This is Jeremy Searier of CRE Invested. Thank you.